Thank God we're finally here! Now we can review the films in the series that I love, the original trilogy. First up we have the original Star Wars, now known as Episode 4 A New Hope. This film was groundbreaking when it came out. Although the story was simple and borrowed a lot from classic serials from the 1930s such as Flash Gordon, the effects, the action, and the fast-paced editing was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. At the time, many of the sci-fi movies coming out were clean and looked perfect. Everything was incredibly glossy. So then this film came along and was gritty and looked dirty. No one had seen anything like it before. And because of that and the other reasons I said, it won 7 Oscars, became at the time the highest grossing movie of all time, and is considered to be not only one of the most important movies ever made, but still to date one of the greatest movies ever made, period. So does it deserve all the attention it gets? In short, of course it fucking does, but let's talk about the film more in depth, first starting with the plot. The film starts off on a Rebel Alliance spaceship. Imperial forces capture the ship led by the main villain Darth Vader. The Imperial forces are after the plan for the Death Star that Princess Leia has stolen. Princess Leia, knowing that she'll be captured, puts the plan inside the memory of R2-D2 along with a recording of herself asking Obi-Wan Kenobi for help. R2-D2 and C-3PO escape the ship in an escape pod. Princess Leia is captured and is asked to give up the location of the rebel base. She is told that if she doesn't give up the location, that her home planet of Alderaan will be blown up. She gives them a fake location and they blow up the planet anyway. R2-D2 and C-3PO land on the planet of Tatooine. They find themselves captured by Jawa traders who then sell them to Owen and Beru and their nephew Luke Skywalker. R2-D2 constantly talks to C-3PO about his old master Obi-Wan and one day leaves the house to go and find him. Luke and C-3PO go to find him and get attacked by Tusken Raiders. However, a man in a cape scares them away, that man being Obi-Wan, who now goes by the name of Ben Kenobi. Ben takes Luke, R2-D2 and C-3PO to his house. There, Ben watches the message of Princess Leia asking for help. Ben tells Luke about his father Anakin and says that he was killed by Darth Vader. He then gives him his lightsaber that he was keeping to give to him. Ben tells Luke that they need to get to Alderaan so he can give them the plans inside of R2-D2. He decides he doesn't want to go, however he changes his mind because he discovers that his aunt and uncle have been murdered by the Empire who are searching for the droids. They head to a cantina in the city of Mos Eisley. There they meet smugglers Han Solo and Chewbacca. They hire them to transport them to Alderaan in their ship, the Millennium Falcon. While on the ship, Ben starts to teach Luke in the ways of the Force. While flying through space, they get captured by the Death Star's tractor beam, so they decide to think fast. Ben leaves to disable the tractor beam and Luke discovers that Leia is being held on the ship. So Luke, Han Solo and Chewbacca come up with a plan to get her out. They do this and make their way back to the Millennium Falcon. Ben, while leaving, sees Darth Vader waiting for him. The two have a lightsaber battle, but when Ben discovers that Luke is watching, he lets Darth Vader win. We find out later that this is because through the Force, Ben will be able to communicate to Luke. They return to the Rebel base and decide to help in a plan to destroy the Death Star. There is a vulnerable exhaust port and they decide that if they fire missiles into it, then the entire Death Star will explode, so that's exactly what they do. Darth Vader survives because he's in a TIE fighter, but after the explosion he is thrown across space and so he can't go after Luke. The film ends with Leia giving Luke and Han medals for their work. That is the entire plot in the most basic way that I can possibly describe it. This is just so if someone hasn't seen the film, I don't ruin some of the best parts of the film. A lot of people say that the only reason this film is still loved is because of nostalgia, but I have to completely disagree. This is a great movie. Still, even to this day, despite the fact many films have come along and done what this film did and better, this remains one of the best sci-fi action movies ever made. I think one of the things I love the most about this movie is the simplicity of it. The story does a great job of being simple and easy to understand, but at the same time there is a lot going on, but you can watch it as a child and not get confused at all. The story is quite familiar. We've seen many films about a knight defeating the bad guy and saving the princess, but this film did it in a way that we hadn't seen before, and it did it really well. There are a lot of different layers to the film. We have the Empire, the Force, and there are a lot of other things in it too. I love how there are a couple of scenes where you will hear a character talking about something that we don't know about, whether it's a character that we haven't met or a throwaway thing that a stormtrooper says. This makes us feel like we're in a proper universe. It gives depth to the universe, and although we may be left with a few questions, it's something I like to see. It leaves you wondering and makes the film a little bit more full of mystery and makes it more intriguing. The action sequences are all absolutely fantastic. They are incredibly exciting. The action in not just this film but all of the original trilogy remains to date some of the best action to ever be put in a film. It all really holds up well. Speaking of holding up really well, the special effects in this movie all look fantastic, and I'm talking about the original unaltered versions, not the special edition fuck-ups. Everything looks real, and I still can't believe they did all of this with practical effects. As much as I want to find out how they did every effect, it's kind of more interesting not knowing. It makes it feel more real if you don't know how they did it. Sure, there are some things that don't look great, like the monsters in the cantina scene, which are obviously just rubber suits, but the models and sets all look fantastic. And there are some really good sets in this movie. Because they use real locations and sets that have been built instead of the CGI created locations in the prequels, everything is actually real, and it makes the film much more easy to get immersed and involved into. The film is incredibly fast paced, and because of that is a lot of fun. I've watched this movie hundreds of times and still can't get bored of it. In fact, I find it gets more and more fun every time I watch it. Now, as much as I love this movie, it does have some flaws, and as much as it may break my heart having to do it, I have to talk about some of them. Some of the acting in this movie is a little bit jilted. Carrie Fisher seems to be trying to do a British accent sometimes in the film, and it really doesn't work. Also, James Earl Jones as Darth Vader gives some really awkward line deliveries. It sounds like they only had him in the studio for a short time, so they just used first takes for every line. Luckily, both of these issues are massively fixed in the sequels. Most of the other actors don't give the greatest performances in the world, but I honestly think that if they did, it would ruin the charm of the movie. Alec Guinness gives a really good performance in this movie, but everyone else not so much. But neither did the series that this film was heavily inspired by, so I think that was intentional. Something that people don't give enough credit to is the editing of this movie. There are many accounts that say that this film was terrible before it was saved in editing. The production was incredibly troubled, and there were big problems with the film, including scenes that didn't work, scenes that completely killed the pace of the movie, and many scenes full of terrible dialogue, scenes that basically were everything that made the prequel so dull and boring. So you really have to give the editors huge amounts of credit for doing what they did, for seeing the potential in the film and taking away all the shit stopping it from being what it could have been. And the final film we got is really well edited. They do a great job of keeping the pace going, even in scenes of just nothing but dialogue. And something else I don't think I can go without talking about is the soundtrack. John Williams' score is absolutely fantastic, seriously in my opinion the greatest score to any movie ever, and I'm actually talking about all 7 movies, not just this. Every single one has great music. All the music is incredibly iconic, memorable and also beautiful. The main theme just hits you straight away. There are other themes in the film that I think are amazing too, including Luke's theme. I don't really know what there is else I can say about this movie. I'm sure I'll end up thinking of something after this review goes up, but for now that's everything I have to say. I love this movie so much. I can watch it over and over again, never get bored of it. And for that reason I give the original Star Wars a 10 out of 10. Something else I want to add quickly, the source I use for not just this review but also the upcoming reviews of Empire and Jedi are the despecialized editions created by Star Wars fan Harmy. These are fan created versions of the original unaltered Star Wars movies in HD. Using multiple different sources, they have created accurate HD versions of all 3 of the original movies. I cannot recommend these editions enough. Although I have the limited edition DVDs with the original unaltered versions, the quality is quite bad and it's in 4x3 letterbox as well. So this allowed me to see the original trilogy in HD and it was beautiful. Go check them out, they're a little bit hard to get a hold of but definitely worth the effort.